The Maple Leafs lose again and get swept by the Ottawa Senators. How concerned are we with the way the Leafs have been playing of late? We'll get to that and tee up tonight's game against the Flames. Just listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leafs centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What's happening, Dave? How we feeling?
Good. Now, we're calling it the Locked On Leafs podcast, but I feel like today we got to call it the Locked On St. Pat's podcast.
Ooh, yeah, that's right. Happy St. Patrick Day to all out there who plan to celebrate. I see my good friend Dave here sporting his St. Pat's jersey. What do you got on the back there? You got someone on the back?
Yes, I do, actually.
Oh, 91. You got the captain, John Tavares. No
It's
captains, though. No captain C on the
No,
St.
when
Pat's?
I bought this, he wasn't the captain.
Oh, so you got that. What was that, like year one, year two? How long was he? He was only here for a year before he was named captain, right?
This jersey's an old jersey. Like I was, yeah.
Well, it's what's old is new again because he's no longer the captain and he won't have the C on his chest in tonight's game either. But I believe the Leafs are going to be wearing their St. Pat's jerseys while they take on the Calgary Flames. And Dave, if they play any way like they did on Saturday, we could probably check this up as a loss as well, because holy smokes, man. Another uninspiring effort for Toronto over the weekend, and it's been a rough few weeks here for the Maple Leafs, and it seems like tensions are starting to boil over within Leafs Nation. Even the players now are coming out and speaking about how poor their play has been, but it hasn't seemed to spark anything different from the Toronto Maple Leafs. What'd you make of that performance Saturday night where they got swept by the Ottawa Senators, losing 4-2 on Saturday?
Yeah, wasn't really enjoying it. Clearly, this was a team that decided to kind of hang around and maybe hopefully put in a last-ditch effort in the third to try to tie it up when they went down. Like what really annoyed me was every time they score a goal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the first goal they scored. 70 seconds later, back of the net, Ottawa ties it. Matthews gets a gift of a goal. Not long after, it's in the back of the net. Then to round it all off again, let's take a stupid penalty and allow the Senators to take the lead. Then Ottawa plays a clamp down defense, which frankly we've seen a lot these last few days, these last few weeks. This team has struggled to find a way to crack the code. Then with the last few minutes left, they put in what I guess they thought was a big effort to try to tie it. Couldn't get the job done. Seems rather similar. We've been seeing this too much, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, we just kind of have to accept that this is how they want to play. And
why can't we start on time? Why can't we start on time, Dave? Why do you got to wait till middle of the third period to get going? Like, this is something that happened a lot with Sheldon Keefe too, where it was, very lackadaisical first couple periods, then all of a sudden the offense would pop in the third and they would kind of salvage a game. But now, like, this team, the lack of offense, well, they're just not scoring anymore. And, instead of having an 18% shooter in Austin Matthews, he's now hovering at 11%. Well, those shots aren't going in. Those goals aren't being scored. Those games aren't going from, a 3-2 deficit to a tie to possibly win in overtime. Like, that offense is not there. The lack of offense is really, really hurting this team, specifically when they fall behind and are unable to get up from the floor. And it's really, it's perplexing to me that this team cannot figure out how to beat the Ottawa Senators. Like, they've lost 3 times here to Ottawa. I think that's 5 or 6 in a row that they've lost to the Senators too. Like, but you get swept in a season by the Ottawa Senators, you just can't have it. And what is annoying is the fact that Toronto knows what you're going to get out of Ottawa. They know that they're going to forecheck hard and play in your face. They're going to lean on you, and they're going to make you earn every inch out there. And it seems like all season long, Toronto hasn't been willing to put up the same fight that Ottawa has, and they're losing those little battles, and those little battles are really piling up. And all of a sudden, you look at the scoreboard at the end of the night, and it's a 4-2 loss. And it's another loss to Ottawa. And it's just, I don't understand how this team hasn't learned from the previous games here and start right away, exactly play with the level of urgency that they did in the back half of the third period. It's like, where was that from the start? Where was that from the get-go? You knew what Ottawa was going to do, what they want to do, what they've had success with against your team. How could you possibly not have been ready for that? That's what's so frustrating to me.
And you heard Craig Berube. Like, he said it pretty perfectly. You know, it's up to the guys in the room to decide to start on time, play with the urgency for 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The coach knows. Like, the coach knows sort of the issues. William Nylander's even saying, we're not playing up to our level. Like, we've heard it all before.
What loss was it where it was considered a wake-up call? Was that against Vegas? Mitch Marner said, yeah, this is a wake-up call. Because they were getting away, winning some games against some lower tier teams. Just they were getting some timely scoring, and the power play was hot, and they were getting the right.
Exactly that was that game exactly. Lost to Golden Knights was wake up call.
Yeah, and Dave, I don't think they're 1 and 3 since then. And then they've played absolutely horrible. The one win against Utah barely counts. Had to take them to overtime. Like, they've played awful since then. So, like, when is this team going to wake up? Is this it? Getting swept and getting embarrassed, and now, you head into this game tonight against Calgary, a cross-conference rival. Is this now finally when the team's going to wake up and get going? I sure hope so.
Well, yeah, I'm still waiting for the wake-up call. I guess maybe they
hit snooze a couple times. They've hit snooze for 3 games in a row after that.
You hit snooze too many times on your alarm, and it just dismisses, and then you wake up and you're like, oh shoot, I accidentally slept past this is literally what's happening. And really, they look like they're on like snooze the last few games. Like, the thing is like they're having such a tough time scoring, and I see how they're getting scored on, and it's not like it's anything incredible, right? Like, I look at the goals the Senators scored, not anything extraordinary about it, just good puck movement, getting open and going to the net. Like, it's not rocket science. That's the part that's killing me here, is that what's ailing them is really kind of simple, which is, be more assertive, show a little more urgency. Like, that's probably what's really, and I'm seeing it especially in the Discord chat. It's a lot of it's looking all the same again, right? It's like the playoffs all over again. And again, because teams are figuring this group out, and this group has reverted back to what we've come to know and see. And to me, that's the concerning part, is that they still, after all these years, have been unable to shake these issues that they've had.
Well, let me tell you a quote from Austin Matthews after the game on Saturday. Austin Matthews said, quote, "Details in our game haven't quite been there, and it's on us to figure that out and be better. We got to get it through our heads that all these games are going to be playoff-like games. We have to wrap our heads around that and be better all around as a team." Like, you would think that you wouldn't have to wrap your head. Like, that's the expectation at this point in the season. Like, you're past the trade deadline. You can't just say, oh, these are going to be playoff-like games. We got to play better. Like, that should just be the expectation, right? Like, that should just be ingrained in your mind. You're in the middle of a playoff fight. And now, because the team has lost, I think they have, one regulation win in the last 6-7 games after the loss to Ottawa. and they now sit in third place in the division. So they've dropped down a couple of slots here in the division, and they're only 4 points up on Ottawa for a wild card spot. Like, that's how poor these last few weeks have been, that this team's inability to pick up points, and Ottawa being on a 6-game heater, they've really, really closed the gap. And now Toronto closer to a wild card spot than they are at the top of the division. And it's something we've talked about all season long, how they're in a good spot to win the division. They could potentially win the division. Now I'm not even sure if they're going to end up winning a divisional spot. They've fallen into the wild card race here, Dave.
Yep. And what's something that's happened this weekend? I don't know if you noticed the last 2 games for the Florida Panthers. They lost both of them. Lost one to Montreal and lost the other one to the New York Islanders. Did you see who scored on against the Florida Panthers for the Islanders tonight? I can't pronounce half the names. You know me, I'm not great at pronunciations anyways. But it's not world beaters that they're losing to. Like, no offense, Montreal. I know they're in the wild card race right now, but I don't think I'd expect the Florida Panthers to lose to Montreal, right? I don't expect the Florida Panthers to lose to the Islanders. Those are gifts. Those are complete gifts for this team, and they're bungling it. They are
a chance to remain in lockstep, or a chance to at least close the gap on Florida. And you're right. That's the word. They're bungling it. They're not picking up any points. They're not going to overtime to pick up a pity point. They have 1 win in the last 7 in regulation. Like, the opportunity has been there. And even, Tampa's lost a couple games. They had a win this weekend, but like, Tampa's right there too. It's now a 3-horse race up at the top, but Ottawa's quickly approaching. Right. And now you're at a point where you are literally closer to Ottawa than you are to Florida in the standings. And it's because you're not winning. The Maple Leafs are not winning hockey games. And it's got to stop. Like, there's what do we got now? 16, 17 games left to go in the season. It's not a very long runway to get the game back in order. And, although Austin Matthews coming out saying, we got to wrap our heads around this, and we got to play better as a team. And William Nylander said much of the same things, said that they're hungry and they've been through a lot of ups and downs, and they're trying to get that push, but it hasn't come yet. It hasn't. And, Nylander came out and said, I don't think that we get to our game until some point in the third, just not playing at our level right now. And when asked what has to change, said, I think we just got to simplify and grind a little bit. That's it. Well, how come you're not doing that? It's been since coming back from the Four Nations, we've noticed that their game has dipped, and that they've been one of the worst teams. Since the Four Nations break, this team has been literally a bottom 3 team in terms of, producing offense, in terms of expected goals on offense. Like, they cannot get anything going. And it's kind of mind-blowing to me, but they got an opportunity tonight to try and get back on the horse, get back on the winning ways. And what I do know about Leafs Nation is, if they go on a quick little 3-game heater, everything's back. Everything's back. The cup's back on the table, and we'll be okay. But right now, it is very much the sky is falling. And when your best players aren't playing that well, namely Austin Matthews, your captain, and they continue to lose games, it's not ideal. Not ideal. All right, let's come back. Let's get into the good, the bad, the ugly from Saturday night, and then we'll tee up tonight's Leafs and Flames game. It's coming up next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. With Factor, you get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, so you can fuel your body without the hassle of cooking. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen, and with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences each week, you can customize your menu to fit your goals, whether that's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Convenience meets nutrition. I love how Factor keeps you on track with healthy and delicious meals without the time-consuming prep. The Korean beef bowl and creamy Parmesan chicken are some of my personal favorites. They taste homemade and take absolutely no effort to make. Factor also offers smoothies, breakfast, and snacks, so you always have something nutritious and ready to go. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use the code FactorPodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FactorPodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, covering the Maple Leafs each and every day here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, which is free and available wherever you get a podcast and also up on YouTube. We're recording this Sunday evening, and right before we came on, Dave, there was a notification we both got from TSN, Score, Sportsnet, wherever you get your notifications from, that the Bengals just made a big signing in the NFL. They locked up their two offensive stars, their wideouts, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, to monster deals. And it made me think, like, wouldn't it be something if we got one of those tweets or one of those messages or notifications about the Maple Leafs at some point soon? And then I started thinking, the way that they've played recently, what would Leafs Nation's reaction be to a tweet like that, where, Chris Johnston or Darren Dreger or Elliot Friedman come out and say, Maple Leafs making some strong efforts in retaining both Marner and Tavares. Extensions could be done within the week. Like, how do you think Leafs Nation would react coming off the stretch of games that they've just played?
Oh, yeah, they'll take it so perfectly. They'll be so happy, so ecstatic. It's not like I've been hearing people saying that they'll pack Marner's suitcase personally themselves with the way things have been
Well,
going.
It's funny because Marner, like 3 weeks ago, people were ready to get Marner signed. Like at the deadline, it was like 2 weeks ago, and it was less than 2 weeks ago. It was a week ago Friday. It's been like 10 days, and all of a sudden it goes from, man, got to try and get Marner signed, to now it's like, well, I don't know if this group got it. You might want to wait. And it feels like that might be the play at this point. Like, I don't know how it'd be received by Leafs Nation if, after the way they've played now, if we wake up in the morning and see a notification, see a report that the Leafs have extended both of those players. I don't know if it would be as positive as you would think, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. All right. The Maple Leafs with a 4-2 loss to the Ottawa Senators. And like we do after each and every loss, we go through the good, the bad, the ugly of the game. We spent a lot of time talking about, the bad parts and the negative aspects of the game, Dave. But what'd you like? What was good about Saturday night?
What did I like? Well, I like the fact that William Nylander kind of took a little bit of his words and kind of showed it by going to the net and scoring a goal. He did exactly what I thought they would do more of. It just nobody was really following Willie's lead.
Yeah. That whole play, like Nylander, the goal, it's like, that's my good too. Like that whole goal, the play with him starting, behind the net and just using his edge work, getting away from the player, ends up at the top, curls around, and then notices, hey, there's an opening here. There's some space. They left me, right down Broadway, basically, allowed to, scoot down below and cross the goaltender and able to get that, tuck it in nicely. And yeah, William Nylander, it was a beautiful play, beautiful goal. And you just love when you see Willie putting the shoulder down and taking it to the net. You want to see more of it. It's been a while since we've seen that from Nylander. It's been a lot of stop-ups recently. But hey, there's no more simpler path to the net than a straight line going directly toward the net. So he says we've got to play more simple and grind it out. Well, that's kind of how you got to do it. So Nylander did take his word there and did score. Need to see it more often and need to see it from more guys also, I would say.
And I thought Scott Lawn had one of his better games. Like,
wow, low bar at this point.
I know. It's improving, I will say. I liked the fact that he dropped the gloves, get himself in the game too, and noticed the team needed a little bit of a shake up, wake up, and he was willing to do it.
Speaking of, what did we make of the lineup shakeup we saw in this game. We actually didn't touch on that in the opening segment there, but massive shakeup in the lines. Willie ends up on the third line. You got Marner with Tavares and McMahon. They shoot Domi up to the top line with Matthews. It obviously didn't necessarily work. They only mustered up 2 goals, and one was an absolute gimme for Austin Matthews. So, what did you make of the new lineup creation there? And could we see it? Could we see it stick?
I like the idea behind it. My only thing was, well, they had a day off, then they threw these lines out there. They didn't really get a chance to practice it, and so I would have preferred if you had done it earlier, in my opinion. Because we've been calling for this, right? Make some changes, do something to shake things up. Will they stick? I think they should stick with it for a bit, because I think having a bit of that balance, I think it helps and gets guys certain matchups. But I'm also of the belief that there were some concerns from what I saw based on those matchups, and part of my problem was, as I said, was it kind of was just thrown out there in the morning skate, and it's oh, that's nice, but it's well, you just only had a morning skate to kind of go through it all.
Yeah, and Matthews wasn't even out there for the morning skate.
Yeah,
even
David Camp was scratched.
Yeah,
so that was, it's just if you were gonna do it, I would have done it after the Vegas game, right? That game there where you just looked absolutely flat. I think they had a little bit more time between the Vegas game and the Colorado game to really get these lines potentially going, but then they waited until the loss to Florida to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. That might have been a better time, and give them a couple of games to sort out the kinks. But we'll see. Again, they got a game tonight against the Flames. Whether or not they go back to that or go back to the well remains to be seen. There's no practice for the Maple Leafs on Sunday to give us an indication. All right, really quickly, the bad and the ugly, Dave. For me, it's just flat out just the least compete level and the start of the game. They felt like they were overmatched and just not prepared for that style of game. And I just don't know how that's the case. That's always how Ottawa plays Toronto. They're always, hard on you, forechecking incessantly. How Toronto's not prepared for that, how you're giving up pucks behind your goal like that so easily, getting beat, getting boxed out, not allowing, how Toronto continues to allow themselves to get beat by Ottawa this way without changing their way of how they play or figuring out a way to beat that style baffles me. And we won't find out unless they play again in the postseason, which is becoming more and more likely, but I guess as a 2-3 now, as opposed to a one seed in a wild card. Could potentially be a 2-3 outlook between these two in a Battle of Ontario. That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting, and based on the message we got from the Locked On Sens boys, apparently that was probably the ugly. That to me is the ugly, is that I have to now get chirped by the Locked On Sens crew, because it's been 465 days since the Leafs last beat the Ottawa Senators. Thank you, Leafs, for that, because there's nothing more I love than to be constantly chirped by opposing.
I don't care. They could lose, 1,000 days in a row to Ottawa, as long as they're, playing in the playoffs and playing in the spring, even just one round.
Sure,
I'll take that over Ottawa.
Oh, yeah, I know. If I'm Ottawa, oh yeah, you beat the Leafs in the regular season. Congratulations.
Made the playoffs, so I'll take that. You swept us. Yeah. Well, we made the playoffs. But anyway, just not a great game for Toronto overall, and hopefully they can regroup tonight against the Calgary Flames. Let's come back and let's tee up that game for y'all. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's show is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keeping you fuller longer. I like the no-shell variety. It's an easy go-to snack, whether you're on the go, you're at your desk, and you don't want the mess from the shells. But if you do like cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, then the in-shell options are also a classic favorite. And they come in many different flavors if you're looking for just classic flavors or you want to spice things up. That's what I like about Wonderful Pistachios. Get cracking and snacking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Today's show is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in handy. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I just realized how much I was spending on different things. And so now it allows me to budget smarter and save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And if you're looking to collaborate with your partner, it's smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKDOWNNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKDOWNNHL for half off your first year.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you on a Maple Leafs game day. Toronto looking to get back into the win column, looking to really muster up a performance that they could be proud of, because it's been a string of them here where, you know, I don't think the Maple Leafs have quite liked what they've put out there. Even the win that they had the other night against Utah was you know, a questionable one at that. So Toronto looking to get back at it tonight against the Calgary Flames, team that they played well against. Dave, like, keep it honestly, their last, like, the best game that they played, like the last game where you could look and say, okay, I think that was like a full 60-minute effort, damn near. Probably the best game that they played was their last meeting against Calgary. Pre-Four Nations, they won 6-3 and looked pretty good. Haven't seen them really play that way ever since. So hopefully this is the opponent where Toronto can get things back in order. They've won 5 straight, 8 of the last 10 games against the Flames. So they've got their number, Dave. They've got their number. Does that give you any more confidence that they can pull out the win tonight and kind of buck the recent trend and put forward a solid performance?
Well, I mean, yeah, they've really enjoyed that matchup. The Flames have also lost Michael Backlund for the time. So it's taken a bit of a toll on that Flames team, and
Connor Zary as well is out for the game.
Yes, because they have this. He got suspended for a pretty dumb play on his part, and like the Flames have they've it's impacted them because they lost 2 in a row. They're kind of on the outside looking in right now on the wild card spot, so they got a lot to play for, but they're also playing shorthanded, which isn't going to help. So this is like the perfect opponent for the Leafs, just to try to get themselves, you know, back on track, get a bit of a reset, and could also just mean that if the Flames, you know, the message is going to be from the coach staff: grind, play hard against this Leafs team, see if we can, you know, lean on them for a bounce back win. If I'm the Leafs, Kraber's like, this is a team we've had a lot of success against. Let's just come out strong, right? Like, in a lot of ways. So I feel confident in this Leafs team being able to get back on track against the Calgary, just because of how Calgary has played recently. But obviously, with the way they've played, they're going to have to show it.
Yeah, 100%. Let's take a look at the matchup preview to see how these two teams stack up against one another. You're taking a look at the Leafs, 39-24-3 record. Flames, 30-24-11. So a lot of close games the Calgary Flames find themselves in. A lot of pity points there. But that's why they got themselves in a playoff spot. because of all those little pity points that they've been able to pick up. Because much like Toronto, sub 50% expected goals at 5-on-5, very poor special teams numbers, just a 21% power play, 75% on the penalty kill, can't score a whole lot. And, they've got a decent goaltender out there in Dustin Wolf, or rookie Tendy, who's kept them afloat and won them a lot of games, to be honest with you. So both teams, when you look at it from a statistical perspective, very similar, right? They've kind of won most of their games on the back of quality goaltending. And we'll see how it shakes out tonight. But Toronto, you look at the special teams for the Flames, like 75% on the PK. Toronto's got to make sure that they score on the power play. They've got to have that special team success to give them a chance to get things rolling tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's how many games have they lost lately where they just haven't won the special teams battle? I don't remember the last time the Leafs won the special teams battle. And guess what? The last time I feel like the Leafs power play looked really, really good was against the Calgary Flames.
They won the special teams battle against
Utah.
They did win against Utah. They got 2 power play goals against Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also had 2 power play goals in their loss to San Jose, if you recall. But yeah, outside of that, they have not won the special teams battle. So that's something, again, tonight. You hope that they can, win that battle and end up a +1 or a +2 in that category, and just give them a better chance to win the game. All right, let's take a look at the Maple Leafs roster and the lineup and what we think it'll look like tonight. This is how it looked the other night if they decide to keep things the way that it was to start the Ottawa game. Nyes with Matthews and Domi, McMahon, Tavares, and Marner, Yarncroc, Scott Lawton, and William Nylander, and then Lawrence Camp and Robertson there on the fourth line, and then Riley, Carlo, McCabe, Tanev, Benoit, and OEL. And it'll be interesting to see who gets the start in net, though, Dave. That I'm kind of curious to see. Like, Stolarz got the opportunity to start back-to-back games, which I think was significant. I think that was Berube kind of telling Stolarz, hey, we're ready for you to kind of take the reins here. Like, that was 3 starts in the last 4 games for the Maple Leafs, but wasn't really able to steal the game. He didn't play poorly, but if it didn't steal the game, he didn't get much run support in either of the losses, though, both against Florida and Ottawa. I'll be curious to see if he gets this one tonight, or if they go back to Joseph Woll to give Stolarz a night off here.
One thing I noticed, like Craig Berube said in the decision to start Anthony Stolarz, is like, we don't want him sitting too long, right?
Stolarz
get his work in, right? To get the work in.
He played 2 nights before.
Yeah, it's like I was like, well, then that was going to be a retort, is that, well, you played he did play a couple of nights ago. I think they want him to see him run with an opportunity. They really want to give him those bulk starts. Now, here's the thing: this week they got 4 games that they're playing with the back-to-back. So if you play, let's say, Stolarz in this one, well, there's going to be a back-to-back, so both the goalies are going to get some work in. So I could realistically see a situation where Woll gets in this one, Stolarz gets the first game of the back-to-back, and Plowry plays Saturday too. I think it's going to be an even split this week, just based on how many games they have. But I do think it's notable that Stolarz did get that game on Saturday.
So I probably would give Woll the start tonight against Calgary, and then you get Stolarz against Colorado, the better team, and you get that on night 1 of the back-to-back. They go back to Woll for the Rangers on the second night of a back-to-back, and then back to Stolarz probably against Nashville on Saturday. That's probably how I'd look at going about the schedule this week if I were Berube, and if I had any any say at all in
Any
the goalie
say.
rotation, which I do not, unfortunately. Quick, let's take a look at the Flames lineup, who the Toronto Maple Leafs will be going up against tonight. We already mentioned that Michael Backlund and Connor Zary not in action tonight. So it's going to be Huberdeau with Kadri and Coronado, Farabee, Sharon Govich, and Blake Coleman, Klapka, Morgan Frost, and Pospisil, Hunt, Rooney, and Lomberg, the Lamborghini. On the blue line, Hanley and Uyghur, Kevin Ball and Rasmus Anderson, Jake Bean and Danil Miramanov. And then I'd expect to see the young rookie goaltender Dustin Wolf between the pipes. He's been a bright spot for the Flames and a big reason as to why they've been as competitive as they have been this season, because there's not a lot of goal scoring going on there. He's had to win a lot of 2-1, 3-2 hockey games out there.
Yeah, he definitely has. And if I remember correctly, the last time the Leafs played the Flames wasn't Dustin Wolf's best performance either.
No.
So, they did find a way to get a chink in that armor. But yeah, Dustin Wolf has been incredible for Calgary. I mean, he's been in the Calder race this year. So quality goalie. You're not gonna get, I'm just looking back on the stats from that game. He allowed 6 goals on 30 shots.
Yeah.
Right. So not great. That's not like what I was kind of surprised of how poorly he did play in that game.
5. One was an empty netter, but still.
Yeah. 5. So he's allowed 5 goals on 29 shots.
Yeah. 828 save percentage.
So yeah, I mean, this was also, Nylander took the charge. He got the hat trick. Matthews had 3 assists. That was also a game they didn't have Mitch Marner in, right? So I think with Marner in there, like I want to see somebody step up. Willie likes to play against the Flames, so
Bill from Calgary, yeah, put the shoulder down and get it done again. Bill from Calgary, give it to me. Let's go.
Yeah,
let's go.
Exactly. So, yeah, I do want to see a good bounce back. This is the type of opponent you want that bounce back against. So,
yeah.
Let's see what the Leafs have in store.
We'll see what they got in store. Puck drop tonight. It is a 7 o'clock puck drop. 7:30, actually. I think it might be a 7:30 start. Yeah, 7:30 start tonight at Scotiabank Arena. All right, that will do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to recap tonight's Leafs and Flames game. Go Leafs, go! Until then,
go St. Pat's go.
Go St. Pat's go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On St. Pat's.